Well, methodological naturalism is we've got something that we have to explain, and we are going to endeavor to explain it with physical laws that we know of. Right. And if that fails, then we will look to physical laws that we don't know of. At no point will we stop and say, well, magic must have happened, problem solved. Somebody must have intervened with their mind and changed the experiment, or God must have willed it to happen, so we don't have to look any further. So methodological naturalism carries with it this really important element, and that is that we're going to keep looking. We're not going to stop looking until we completely understand the causality of it. And if we never understand the causality of it, we're going to keep looking anyway, because that's our method, right? Hey, boys and girls, weather report for May 12th, 2021. I started this channel 1 year ago today, and been putting on like 1.05 subscribers a day.
It's the speed anniversary.
The speed of sound, man. I'm putting them on at the speed of sound. It's pretty amazing. So anyway, we're going to have a
special thanks to Brainbug for...
Oh, yes, Brainbug did that intro.
For the his happy birthday video.
I almost forgot. So who the hell else did I want to mention? Yeah, definitely Brainbug. Anyway, so there is a bunch of stuff in the description today, not all of which we're going to cover. Let's say SFT had a debate last night. That's SFT succeeds again at Great Preachery. He did a good job at preaching, and he was debating a man named Jackson Roe. And Jackson Roe has a channel that you should check out called the Jackson Roe Science Show, which, that's
a catchy name.
Yeah, it has some good stuff on there. Yeah. And so I linked that channel. And then Darth Dawkins and JoElle in one pudding pile on LilPP's channel last night. They did an after show. And JoElle, they were talking to, let's see, what was his name? Oh, I think they were talking
Godzilla kid, right? Wasn't it?
Oh, they were talking to somebody else back. Let's see, Bill Tavis, right?
Yeah.
And Bill Tavis is an old Earth creationist. You know, he accepts evolution, and he was arguing with JoElle and standing for truth and the whole bunch, and they were making their usual crazy statements, and he was trying to reason with them, and he couldn't. And he was trying to make the point that, you know, you glorify God with evolution rather than deny evolution, and they just weren't having it at all. And a couple of points they got a little bit short with him, I think, but he remained calm. And I think he debated SFT last week, right? Was it? Bill Tavis?
Yep, that is correct. Before? Yep.
Right. Yep. And let's see. Okay, Snake was right. I linked his video with great Darth Dawkins Rage Quit that Scott has reviewed, but I have not. And then I have a little paper, non-random distribution of transposable elements in the nuclear genome of plants, which I included to show why JoElle is ignorant in one of his comments if we ever get to playing it. And let's see what else. Yeah, okay. Right below, I linked the timestamp of where he claims that transposons, you know, the jumping viruses inside of our genome, where he was claiming that they jump, that they're fully programmed, that they jump to very precise sites, right? And this paper is one of the many papers that tell you that yes, there are hotspots.
Are you talking to Mike now?
Yep.
Hello. You have to reassure us that.
Sorry, she bumped that for me. Sorry about that.
Okay, you have to reassure us that she can't hear us, right? Please.
Yeah, she cannot. She cannot.
Okay.
But the cute level on the stream has shot through the roof.
She is, and incredibly smart. This young child, she's incredibly smart. It's amazing.
And she was really enjoying Top Dog.
Oh yeah, she loves. Yeah, well, that's because she'll see me on the computer. She's always sitting on my lap, and she sees all these avatars and all. She loves Jay's avatar because his is kind of like the evil thing there.
So really?
Like, yeah, he's the mean guy, and I. She's always trying to touch my computer. I said, "Don't touch that! Don't touch that!" And I said, "The mean guys are gonna come out and get you. Watch out for that! Watch out for the mean guys!" And I use Jay as the mean guy.
Okay.
Yeah, it's funny.
Yep. And anyway, what else? What else happening? I don't know. I don't have too much today. I'm kind of preparing for our genetic entropy talk tonight with rational empiricist Dr. Dan and maybe Walker, but we're not sure. So we're gonna have a small room and just go over some stuff on genetic entropy. So, and that will be at 7 p.m. CST. And I don't know. I'm out. I'm out of stuff. So, how much of that, Scott, did you listen to of the Darth Dawkins Rage Quit on Snake's channel?
Oh, probably about the first 1/4 of it. Let me take a look. Yeah, I'd say about 1/4 of it. I got through about a half an hour out of an hour and 45 minutes.
Okay.
And he does a good job. Snake was right, does of giving Dawkins a taste of his own medicine, kind of speaking back to him in the kind of way that that Dawkins speaks to people, which I thought was very satisfying. And of course, he still made very logical and unassailable points.
Yeah. So on Maddox's stream last night, he was going on about he wanted to talk to. Let's see, who did he talk to? Oh, who the hell is Alec Cox? Does anyone know anything about him?
That's an invitation for participation to our side chat.
Yeah. Believe it or not, like I told you about that guy, he has a PhD. He claimed, he said that in microbiology, I believe, or whatever.
Okay.
That's what he claimed, which,
he's the one. Okay.
Some sort of a biological degree. I don't know. And he said it himself. He claimed that he was doing something with he talked about a paper that, or some sort of a paper that he was writing, and of course it got rejected because he's got all of his God beliefs in it, I believe, and I don't know the paper or what he wrote, but it was so he talks about that, and he's not even in the field, because I think he wrote a paper and he was doing that type of stuff and it got rejected, and I think he just left the field and he does something else. Now I can't remember what he does. Maybe some consulting or something like that. I don't believe he's even in the field anymore. And he's a fan, if you believe it or not, he's a fan of what's his name there? Kent Hovind. Hovind down at So, and he lives, I believe, in California right now, and he's talking about moving down to Kent's, his dinosaur land there down in Florida.
Wow.
He's talking about doing that. Yeah. And if you want a little more information on this guy, and he said it himself online, so I can. He said it on a stream, so obviously I can reveal this stuff. But he is actually talked about Ken Hovind, how Ken Hovind was arrested on his tax situation. Well, this guy went through the same thing, and he was also, the FBI actually raided his house and everything, but it wasn't. He said he only spent 2 weeks in jail, I guess, for the whatever happened, and then somehow. That was basically all the information he gave. He talked about it one time on one of these streams. This was just probably within the past week he talked about that.
Well, the IRS does target young Earth creationists.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah. So
especially if they cheat on their taxes.
Right. So he must have had some sort of a ministry. He was involved in a church, or ministry, and he was doing the same thing I think that Hovind was doing. Basically, because obviously that's why he likes him, because he's like, oh, I can relate. I'm a crook just like you are, or So I think that's kind of why he enjoys him so much, or is talking about moving down there and whatever. So yeah, I've listened. He's been on these streams a lot in the past week and a half. And it just astounds me that some of the things that he says being, having a PhD degree, he's a yak. So
he was talking to Bill Tavis, or is it Tavis? I think it's Tavis. Bill Tavis, and they were talking about protein folding, and he was telling him, yeah, I've folded proteins in a lab or something like that, and it's like, what are you talking about? And he was saying that all proteins are created in precisely the amount at precisely the moment that they're needed, which is something that you wouldn't think a biologist would ever say. And that's why I again was wondering, and I'd forgotten that he was a guy that we were talking about the other day with the PhD. So anyway, it was interesting. But Bill Tavis was trying to talk to these yeks and trying to convince them that there's just way too much evidence in paleontology and in biology for evolution to be denying it. That rather they should glorify God through evolution rather than deny evolution. And that's what he was saying. And these guys were not having it. I mean, they just went after him. Oh, yeah. And JoElle was saying some incredibly ignorant things as usual.
Yeah, he is. You should have heard the story in this stream here. I haven't been time stamping stuff for you, but in this stream here, towards the end, this Alex Cox was talking. It was Jungle, and I believe it was Travis. I think it was mainly them. I think John's icon or avatar was in the stream, but I think he was asleep because it was towards the end of this stream. And they were talking, this Alex Cox was talking about Neanderthals and how, I believe Bill Travis said, well, how do you explain Neanderthals or whatever the conversation, how it came up. And he was explaining that, that people back then, grew really, or were very old, with Noah's sons and all that. They lived 400 years. So if you live 400 to 600 years, your ears grow bigger, your nose grows bigger, your forehead grows bigger. So that was his explanation for Neanderthals in his model, I guess you would call it.
Okay.
So, and that was in this stream. I mean,
which is different than SFT's explanation.
Yeah, and this is coming from a guy with a PhD in some sort of a biology degree. Like, seriously?
Yeah.
Wow. I don't know.
Beginning to doubt that.
Yeah. Well, he claims it, right? I mean, you don't know if he's honest or not. Who knows?
Well, you see who he's right next to down here, JoElle. Right. And JoElle famously exaggerates a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just a little.
Yeah. Well, the newest one is he's an Apache pilot. I don't know if I told you guys about that the other day. That's his newest claim.
Yeah, he's trained in rocket launchers or something.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And he's also expert marksman.
Yeah.
And a bunch of other stuff.
Surprised he actually did fairly well in this. I mean, there was some argument. Oh, as a matter of fact, I got to bring this up too. This channel is mentioned all the time. If you listen to this, you're mentioned in here several times, and it's usually when it's a dumpster fire, when they start screaming at each other. Which, if you listen to this, I scanned through it to see if there was anything interesting in this, which there was, and they were going at it. And, really over talking each other. So a lot of it, you could hardly understand what the hell they were saying because they were talking over each other so much. And John mentioned it. And he actually, I believe, mentions this channel several times. And usually when they get in these real heated arguments, John will bring it up. Oh, well, we don't want to give Speed of Puddings channel
Ammunition?
ammunition. And, oh yeah. So just so you know, this channel is mentioned all the time, quite often. Same thing happened in a couple of other places. JoElle freaked out and was saying, that was I think a day or two ago, said basically the same thing. He was saying, we don't want to give the enemy. Of course, it was this channel was mentioned, and then JoElle, we don't want to give the enemy any, ammunition. We're all sitting here as Christians arguing over the Bible and this,
right.
their doctrine and all that, and you're just giving the atheists ammunition, and they're the enemy, and So we'll mention quite a bit, just so you know.
Good.
I got another story too.
They claim I'm irrelevant.
Yeah. And also our little foreskin when we want to pause a video, that has permeated throughout the whole community too, because that is mentioned, just so you know. And it was a woman that brought it up too. She says they were reviewing a video, and she's going, foreskin. This is on another video. So I will have you know that we are apparently we're well liked throughout the community. So you should be proud of that.
Cool.
Yep, we are. So I wanted to make sure you knew that.
Thank you. Not bad for a 1-year anniversary president.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. Yep. So what else was I was going to mention something else, and I really hate to mention this, but so the Rage Nakasuchi last night did a thing on living with chronic pain, right? And he has a condition in his legs that my friend has too. My friend had surgery for it, and he had a hell of a time with it. And anyway, so there's this other channel run by a stinky guy. Who I don't even want to mention his name, but I call it the Stinky and Will Show.
Yep.
And they went after him.
Yep.
And they were cackling and laughing at his leg condition. That's the fact that he showed his leg, right?
Yeah.
And it was about the crudest thing I've ever seen. Now, is it okay for YouTube to ban certain comments, but it's they will ban comments, but they will allow people to go after somebody with a clear disability and problem?
It's Jorge. Right. Hey, Jorge.
Hello.
Anyway, so if anybody wanted to be offended by that and wanted to maybe go and let YouTube know that the Stinky and Will Show did that last night, I would encourage that.
Yeah.
I would encourage people to go and talk to YouTube and comment on what they did, because it was pretty fucking gross.
And I hate, like you said, I hate to even talk about that, but there was another thing that happened. Those people are going after each other, and they're going after personal Facebook stuff. Okay, they're looking up personal stuff. So now it's getting into that. And the funny thing is one of them said that he admitted to going and looking at people's personal Facebook pages and different family members, different things like that. And then right after that, there was something else that came up, and they're saying that that the other person is doing it, so we don't usually stoop. They were saying, we don't stoop that low, we don't do those kind of things, and he had just said it hours before on a different stream, admitted to it. So it's like, but anyway, I don't even want to talk about, like you said, they're not worth talking about.
Yeah, their stated goal is to get Rage to take his channel down. So they're trying to attack another person's channel and get it removed. And of course, we don't want to end up in that fight.
Right, exactly.
So we won't mention any more than what I just said. But I was just a little bit offended that somebody would do something on chronic pain, and then somebody would come on and start cackling about it. Because anyone who lives with chronic pain, I don't, but I know of people who do. It's an amazing fucking thing, because half the time they want to die. I mean, it's it's really, really a tough thing to get your mind around when you have constant pain from your body.
Right. Yep.
And it's And I'm sure it has led to that in a few cases. So, I mean, it's nothing to fucking laugh about and make fun of.
Right.
They should not have done that.
Right.
Anyway.
You know, if you go back a year or so, this community really had a good code of conduct, right? Kind of. I mean, if you go back
I think so,
that
yeah.
far, we did with it. The whole community was pretty good about that, and everybody kind of followed those unwritten rules or code of conduct of, you know, you're not doxing people, you're not, you know, attacking people in certain ways, and you know, that kind of stuff that was really held to very well. And now it has it just sad.
Sometime in the fall, a great stink descended upon the community, the Christian community, and you know, and it basically it kind of like settled on us for a little while, but we brushed it off.
Right.
The great stink. But anyway,
it's too bad, because if you go back that you know, a year ago, this community was great. It really was. There was a lot of good you know, communication between the two different sides, and
yeah, we were talking
really
back then.
Yeah, it really was. And now it's just has gone to shit.
I was a kinder, softer speed of sound back then. So, or Professor Evo, as I'm now known as. I'm a real Professor Evo.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah. One other thing I wanted to mention is John Peterson said he will be back in the community at some point. He's dealing with the impending loss of his mother right now, and he's not. He's in a lot of pain.
Yeah. Those days prior to losing a parent are very dark. I went through something similar when my mom was going.
Yeah. He did a video. I don't know if anybody saw it, but he did a video about it. I don't know if you guys saw that or not, John. Last night. It was,
he did. It was pretty emotional. So
it was. It was. And like I've gone through that same exact thing as what he's going through. I've gone through that several times actually with my mother and other close family members, and it is very rough. So I can certainly relate.
Yep. Okay. So I want to be out of here by 3 today. So Scott already took care of that one. Good. Thank you. Damn. I love having a producer.
It's more like a typer. I'm the typist.
You're the producer. Okay. So I was going to play this little clip from JoElle. He's roboting a lot, so I might have to fast forward a little bit. But we'll see if it... let me know if the audio is not good.
Well, not only that, but it's extremely code-wise what you're doing. And so I was wanting to address the claim you mentioned in text that DNA is mostly junk. It's the exact opposite. There's actually very little to no junk in the DNA now. There's even a research project showing how the translocations of chromosomes moving around, even that's not random anymore. All kinds of transposons and retrotransposons. It's literal artificial intelligence embedded into DNA. Literal.
No, it's not. And that's why I put the link to the paper that talks about how transposons, they basically insert themselves in particular parts of the genome, but it's based on a consensus sequence and the basically like a real loose pattern where they will insert in certain parts of the genome. And it's sort of it was designed into the virus, whatever virus it was, has that target, and it has nothing to do with absolute precision. They don't jump at a certain time according to God's plan and insert themselves at a certain point according to God's plan. And the other thing about junk DNA is, we don't call it junk anymore. We sort of call it workshop DNA. 90 or more percent of the genome is probably workshop DNA. 10% is functional, 10 to 12%. And ENCODE no longer uses the word functional. They keep insisting that ENCODE proved this, and all ENCODE found was that a lot of DNA is transcribed at some point to the level of maybe one molecule in some cases, which they can detect right now in certain tissues. And none of this proves that it's all functional. So there's absolutely zero proof that more than 10% of the DNA is functional. And they keep saying the same bullshit over and over again. And we have to push back on it every time they say it. So anyway, and that was about the only clip I had from this video that other than this stuff, there was more where they got into it with Bill Davis, but
I jumped on because Darth and Andrew were going at it at one point, and they were talking geology, but looks like Rational RE is not going to be here today.
Yeah. Yeah, we're going to talk to him tonight. Oh, they were talking geology, really? So
yeah,
what were they talking about?
I had to stay up far too. I stayed up far too late because my kid didn't want to go down. And I popped in like around midnight my time, Eastern. Okay. And Darth was trying to talk rocks with a rational empiricist.
Oh,
I got all
awesome.
in the comment section.
Oh.
Yeah, they went at it about a lot of stuff. Yep. It went on for quite a while too. They went back and forth for quite a while. Yeah, there was Duncan and Rational, and then there was Bill Tavis against all of them, against JoElle and Ella Cox and John. And John was going, and then at some point John had somebody come in. Was it Bill Tavis, to ask him about 3D printers and the language they use for because John thinks the ribosome is a 3D printer, or even he calls it a 4D printer, because he's still doubling down on this ribosomal pausing, which all of that came up last year from a paper by David Abel and D'Onofrio, where they talked about ribosomal pausing, which is a thing that they found in some prokaryotes, right? And then they found, I think, one or two cases of it in eukaryotes, where a protein folded differently because it was paused by some sequence in the DNA. But this, according to John, this happens for every protein that's made. That every protein that's made is made with this 3D printing program that only an intelligence could have created. And so John is trying to make this case, and he fails to make this case every time. But there will be more digging done on this. And this video right here has a lot of good examples. But so what was Darth saying about rocks?
Basically, he was going over every quippy bullet point that creationists talk about.
Okay.
His talking points were kind of indecipherable for Matt Slick when I talked to him about geology. And I felt bad for Andrew because I'm sure Andrew doesn't know much about the subject, so he didn't really have a response. And I kind of wanted to, give him a quick primer if he showed up here, but it doesn't look like he's arriving.
Okay. Well, we had to do a video on that at some point.
Because it was real, yeah, exactly. It was real basic creationist talking points that it's a real shitty thing that somehow creationists can talk about every branch of science and just be right, and expect you and be upset at you when you can't respond. And that's kind of what Darth did, But let me bring up geology. Do you know anything about it? No. Oh, well, I guess I'm right then. That crap.
Yeah, Nestling makes a good point here that a lot of ribosomal pausing is due to the which activated tRNAs are available in the cell. And if your cell is nutritionally depleted, certain proteins will get paused, and sometimes ribosomes will collide with each other. And what that does is it usually kicks the ribosome, it unhooks the ribosome from the mRNA, and it quits producing the protein, and the protein gets degraded. So there are partial proteins created. Usually ribosomal pausing is a bad thing in the cell. If all is going well, it'll be clipping along. It'll have a number of ribosomes on the same little strand of messenger RNA, and they'll all be making a protein from it all simultaneously. And every now and then it gets stopped, and one of the ribosomes hits the other one, and the whole thing breaks down, and they release it. But there's quite a bit of unpacking to do there. But anyway, I wanted to play you a little rock part here. I think that I found. Let me switch my audio back over. Okay, I got you guys yet. Somebody say something.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
Yep.
So I think this is the
One,
part
two,
where
three.
they're talking about sedimentation or something. So let me see let me know if the audio is on.
Right.
And
So
they're
if we wanted to
rooted
create a very sophisticated sedimentary third grade, maybe we'll do
I
a
can
fourth
hear it.
grade science project, Jar,
Mount
where
St.
we've
Helens.
got some plants. We've got some plants that have rooted themselves into some sort of, piece of soil or even whatever, some sort of,
Mhm.
substrate, and shook up a nice big jar. We would see likely the same thing, especially since we don't see
No.
that all over the entire planet. But regardless, it can be simulated, and it could
It's
be.
a real-
They're talking about polystrate fossils. And Bill Tatus had an example that he was talking about. Anyway, they're talking about the shake the jar up, the sediment that Kent Hovind does all the time. Yeah. And I was looking at that book on sedimentation that I have, and I wanted to ask you about this. Now there's I think it was it limestone deposit? There were some deposits, and anyway, the amount of magnesium and calcium varies between the segments
Yes.
as it's deposited because of the amount of magnesium and calcium that happens to be in the lake at the time, or
Yes.
in the ocean or whatever it is, right? And that sorts itself. So you can look at the very same grain size, but it has different ionic composition through the sediments, and you can measure it and go all the way up. How the hell does shaking a jar up get magnesium and calcium ions to sort themselves in segments?
Well, yeah, there's lots of problems with assuming that a mason jar of hydraulically sorted sand somehow equates to every single rock every single rock that's ever been put across the face of the earth.
Right.
If I have to explain how they're not the same thing, what are you doing with your life?
Yes.
I mean, your example is a very good one, because how does a flood know to do that, right? But even the basic of the argument is so weird. It's
and the other thing, the way they talk about the flood, there were like 700-foot high tsunamis and churning, because the earth was like breaking apart at the center and shooting shit out in outer space. How in the hell does that sort into nice even layers with extrusions and volcanic all of that stuff? How does all of that happen?
That's something I keep trying to hit with my Matt Powell videos, is creationists aren't putting in the effort to show the science for their own model. They're just trying to find holes in the other guy. Just because you don't get something that I say doesn't mean you're right. Right. I would love to see a paper, for example, of how much sediment was held in suspension for the flood. If you have however much water accruing over the course of, what was the flood? It rained for 10 days, was it? Something like that? How long did it rain day and night?
40? I don't know.
It was 40. Yeah.
Come on, guys. 40 days and
If you
40
have-
nights. I've never gone to Sunday school.
Yeah, if you have all this happening in 40 days, I think an obvious thing a judge just want to know is, well, how much suspension, right? How much stuff is slurried up? How thick is that water? If you watch a flood, it's like brown goo moving around because there's so much stuff floating around in the water. That seems like an important topic to understand, but no one ever answers that because that involves actual science. Instead, we want to talk about polonium halos for 30 straight years because somehow that explains the flood. If you want to say the flood deposited literally everything, if you want to say the flood deposited limestone, how? Right?
Yeah.
How long was the flood water covered in suspension? If someone's done this, let me know, because I haven't found it. But exactly what you're saying, like you shake a jar of sand and hydraulically sorts, that's a 1-to-1 analogy to the entire world. That doesn't seem like an issue to you?
Yeah. Yeah, it's just, I mean, any rock deposit that you look at, you cannot imagine how a flood could have done it. I mean, and sedimentation is like a really big one. And they insist that rocks could not have folded without cracking unless they were soft mud, right? And they think that the mud came down and then the mud hardened. That's how they look at sedimentation, right?
So, did Antarctica experience the flood? It's like hundreds of thousands of years.
I don't know. No one's ever done the work.
Yeah, they're kind of mute on that point.
Yeah, if you want to say the flood did this stuff, you need to show how the flood would do it. You don't just get to say the flood did it, right?
I just linked your channel in chat and the description, by the way.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks. But it's
for your Matt Powell
I would that's the point. I've made 3 Matt Powell videos, and my entire argument against Matt Powell is you're not actually saying anything. You say zero information, and somehow you run around exclaiming victory. What was he? Let me go to my list real quick here. What was he doing? He was bitching about something recently. The clams on top of Mount Everest. He says that's evidence for a flood, and that's his entire argument. Like, there's a period after the word flood, and that's the entire statement. Yeah. How is it evidence for a flood?
I think Neff uses that one too, doesn't he?
Yeah,
that's a typical creationist go-to. I know that.
Yes, it's very common, but I haven't seen a paper describing how the deposits on top of Everest would be made by a flood, a Noahic flood. They simply say that that's the best answer, but there's no research as to why it is. They're not doing any work. They're just exclaiming victory. It's like that scene from Rick and Morty and all the Jerrys high-five each other. I mean, it's
another key point to that too is they claim that the shells aren't open, right? They're closed, which means they were buried fast and buried alive, so they never open like a clam normally would. And that's a part of it too. Yeah,
but they're not even clams.
The issue with that point is if the clams close, that's because they were under the ground. They were like, the clams are in the soil, and something came above them to where they couldn't escape again to breathe, and they essentially died from asphyxiation. Right? A mudslide will do that. Maddie from Science Side Up responded to Kent Hovind was saying a mudslide.
Right.
If the flood killed the clams, or if the clams just died from a mudslide, both sides have a mudslide doing it. How is this an argument in your favor when you're basically just copying what I say?
Right. Well, you know how they work. They have to pick out anything that has, that can possibly be in their favor, and they're not going to get into any details. They don't want to get into the nitty gritty of anything because, number one, they haven't done the study, and number two, it's going to refute what they say, so they can't get into anything. It's just generalized, and so.
Well, we do not want to forget that Standing for Truth and Raw Matt had this theory that the continents, like India, was going 45 miles an hour and it crashed into Europe, and that's what raised the mountains in Europe, right?
Yeah. Well, Asia,
or Asia, and they're saying they would not have they could not have risen if the continents were only moving at like a few centimeters a year. That they only could. The only way you're going to get mountains is if the continents are going 45 miles an hour and they crash into each other. And that was they've literally said that.
Yes, and what they're doing, to my understanding, I haven't had this conversation with Standing yet, but to me it sounds like what they're doing is they're taking the facts of the matter. We know where India's position was over time with paleomagnetic directions. We can tell where India was at any particular moment, and we have calculated in 60 million years, India traveled from about where Madagascar is and then collided with Eurasia. Over 60 million years, divide how far it went by how fast it goes, we're saying, geologists are saying that's 10 to 12 centimeters a year. That's like 3 times faster than anything that's going on right now. They just took that number and they just took that distance, threw it into a
Year.
and called it victory. And I'm really wondering, did they do any of their own work? Or are they scalping everyone else's information and calling it their own?
But worse, they insist that the mountains would not have risen up like that if it hadn't been going fast.
Yeah. And again, that's the other point is geologists, there are hundreds of geologists been working for 50, 60 years in the Himalayas, understanding that tectonic activity and those forces. Structural geologists, you can find hundreds of papers on the rise of the Himalayan mountains. It's the most recent mountain chain. Where are the creationist papers showing their math for how that structure, geology, how those forces worked? They don't have any, but somehow they still get to make a claim. It's if they exist, SFT, if you listen to this, if those papers exist, shoot them my way so I can see them. But I haven't seen anything.
Yeah.
You just have to look at the cliffs of Dover.
Well,
and then they're older.
The other night when I was in chat on some channel that SFT was on, and he was saying, "Come on in, Speed. Come on in and bring your best evidence for evolution." And it occurred to me that what they wanted is they wanted one little point, one little piece, right? So they wanted me to engage in the same kind of science they engage in, where you have these little tiny points. Where I'm supposed to come up with some like best evidence for evolution, which is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard, because the best evidence for evolution would be a mountain of books, the size of the Himalayas. So I mean, there is no, but that's how they think. They think if they come up with these little talking points that tear down
for a
one
silver
little piece,
bullet, exactly.
Yeah, it's a silver bullet arguments, and it's clear that they don't think the way we think at all, and hence hence we go onto their streams and they ask us these questions and we're kind of perplexed by being asked these questions, right? And it's like, what are you talking about? It's just, I don't know, but it shows a real difference in biblical science, which is reading the Bible and the Bible tells me so, and actual science, which it's not like that. So drives me nuts.
They don't have drivers for critical thinking.
Yeah.
And on that exact same point, you want to talk about evolution. Okay, there's 30 different branches we can discuss down here. Each one requires, people spending a quarter of their life just preparing to understand the concept. But you want to talk about just all of them simultaneously?
Yeah.
That's kind of what's expected. SFT can do some ridiculous ancestry video one day, geology the next day, and like DNA replication the next day. Is there a single person on the planet that can do all three of those at a PhD level? Probably not. But SFT expects to be able to, or LPP or NAFI or whoever, Matt Slick, whoever you want to do it,
Yeah.
Well,
that was my little rant. So I like rocks, so I get upset when people mistreat them.
I have rocks. I've been mistreating my rocks a little bit. I've been putting I've got this calcium lime dissolver, and I bring my rocks home and I pour that on them. Is that mistreating?
HCl?
Yeah, it's got HCl among other things in it, and it fizzes for a while, and dissolves.
Oh yeah.
Well, what it does is it cleans the rocks up really nice, and I can look at them under the microscope. But I'm going to have to get my dad used to have a huge rock blade, where he could cut rocks in sheets.
Yes.
I just want a little one.
I believe
you can buy that right at Home Depot, Speed.
Really?
Yeah,
a rock cutter?
Of course you can. You just go buy a diamond blade. A tile saw will do that. Or
that's most rock labs will just use a regular tile saw for that.
Right, but you also just get a skill saw. I mean, just a regular skill saw, and you put a diamond blade on it. You could put a diamond blade on it and cut it.
if you knew me better, you'd never recommend that because you know I'm going to cut my arm off, right? I mean, I need something to hold the rock in.
Yeah, well, you could make yourself put it in a vise and do it, but also the diamond blades are not, they're not severe, you know, they won't like cut your arm off. They're not that dangerous, really, honestly.
Oh, you underestimate me. You underestimate me in the shop.
I'm just saying that they're not, it's not like a skill saw that it would, you know, you just blink your eye and it's going to take your fingers or your hand off or whatever. They're not like that. I mean, you could actually bump it and it would probably just only kind of give you a little tiny cut, almost like a burn, just from the friction of it spinning or something. They're not that dangerous.
Where's my disco explosion? Burn, baby, burn. Sorry.
Hey, the big difference between a rock saw and any other saw is that rock saws have water that spray on them constantly. That's really the only difference. Get a hose, put it on top of a rock saw, any saw, you have a rock saw.
Right.
Yeah. Let's figure it out.
You can dry cut them though with a diamond, like I said, with a diamond blade you buy from Home Depot. You know, not a tile saw. There's difference between a tile blade and an actual diamond blade that is you know, they have blades that are for generalized that cut bricks, rocks, everything, and you can cut dry with them. They cut better wet, but you certainly can cut dry with them.
Yeah, this rig my dad had, he'd put a huge rock in it, and it would cut like you could make a table out of it. You know, it was like huge, and it kept going, and it applied its own pressure, and you just let it run, and he had a hose running on it, and there was sediment all over the basement floor, and I wonder what the hell he did with that. That's one thing I didn't inherit from the old man. I got his cabbage cutter, but I didn't get his rock cutter.
Cabbage cutter?
For making sauerkraut. For making sauerkraut, cabbage shredder.
Oh.
It chops it up. It chops up cabbage like in the kitchen. It's a kitchen utensil.
It grates it. It's like a big
grater. It's like a grater. Okay.
Well, it's a big wooden, big wooden frame. I mean, every household had one back in the 50s and 60s. Everybody made their own sauerkraut, right?
I don't think my household made sauerkrauts back in the 50s.
Really?
My grandparents.
You were deprived.
Yeah, they weren't sauerkraut people.
Sauerkraut was kind of an essential. So anyway.
Well, I think they bought sauerkraut like in cans for different occasions, but no, they were not like make your own sauerkraut kind of people.
You can buy it in stores? Never mind. Homemade sauerkraut was the best. It was the best. You used to make it in a big wooden barrel, and you had a special board that would fit into a round barrel. It was and you'd put a gigantic rock on it, and you'd salt the hell out of cabbage, you know, and pour water in there, and it would make sauerkraut. Pretty cool. I don't know why they did it, but anyway. So, guys, what else?
Anybody paying attention to side chat on Tangelo was saying all kinds of things in the chat.
We have no. That's Otangelo's vlog.
Yeah. Did you see? Anybody see that Tom Rabbit actually posted a video of him and Ontangelo now? So he's actually on Tangelo's content. Yep.
Is that the real Otangelo? Otangelo's vlog?
Yeah, he's something about too many people blocked on his.
Yeah, he doesn't know how to unblock people on his other account. He can't figure it out how to unblock somebody.
Yeah. Is there an upset German in the chat? Did I upset a German by?
He has.
Yeah,
I'm one of the people he has blocked on his other account.
Yeah.
He got upset at me one day. He blocked me.
The blind watchmaker. Is that God? Is God blind? Does God make watches?
Eyes?
Yeah. Does he make watches?
It matters what person you're in the mind of the person. So that's what a God is.
So Nestle did a hit and run, said he had a ribosomal pausing paper, And I asked him for the paper, and no, he hasn't shown up again. He left. What the hell, Ness? Like, are you out there yet?
No, he posted a paper.
He did.
Yeah. I'll throw in the side chat real quick.
Jorge,
Okay.
I have to agree with you about Nova and the content of their documentaries. It's a great. I don't know, what are they, a production company? Are they part of PBS? I don't know.
I just always assumed they were a PBS affiliate.
Yeah, there's some sort of production company affiliate, maybe of PBS. I know PBS plays all their stuff, but yeah, some of the best scientific documentaries and even historical and political commentaries and observations have come out of their series.
Yeah, and if we
What does
play,
NOVA stand for?
if we play even the slightest bit of it, we get a copyright strike.
Yeah, that's too bad because they did that Dover trial too, didn't they?
Because we might get a copyright strike for even talking about them.
Now they go way back, right? That's probably one of the first ones to start doing like documentary types, right?
I
I can
remember watching
remember.
Nova when I was a kid, I
Right.
think.
Yep.
And of course the old Jacques Cousteau
Right. Yep.
specials.
Yep.
The
So
Undersea World of Jacques Cousteau.
Jerry asked a question about how many accounts does Ontangelo have in the chat there. I believe he has said like 20. I don't know if he was exaggerating or not, but he could have that many. I don't know.
Okay, so I'm looking at the ribosomal pausing paper. This is one I haven't seen before. I will take a look. Anyway, guys, so I want to end the stream soon. Is that okay with everybody?
Yeah, I got the yellow about rocks. I'm happy.
Yeah, got the yellow rock.
Jorge, did you see this video from the channel Physics Girl about a giant mud pool that started moving?
Yesterday. I just found it. I'll have to watch it.
Yeah, watch it for me and tell me what you think it might be. They still don't quite know, but it was so fascinating because it would just basically swallow anything that got in its way.
That's cool.
You know, the companies trying to save their train tracks or their highway would try to, dump huge, blocks of concrete and stuff in it, and it would just sort of eat it up and keep going and explode with little mud geysers, mud explosions. And it's just amazing. I never knew something like that could like move on its own. It's almost like a hot spot or something is under there, causing the mud and the water or something to bubble up. But yeah,
it's
and do
like with
with
any topic, the deeper you go, the wider it gets.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Okay, guys. What's in for the day?
All right. Take care.
I got plenty of stuff to do. Oh, Norgay just bailed. Just like that. What the hell? People are bailing. Why are you bailing? Anyway. Okay.
I gotta go dig some worms.
Okay, go dig some worms. I'm gonna end the stream.
Yep.
Okay.
Stay curious.
Goodbye, cruel world.
Bye.